get a welcome you'll never forget. What I want, so I'll take you on. I've made mistakes, but mistakes make you strong. Let's break it down for a minute. I want the crown, I'm gon' get it. You hear me loud, man, I'm winning. Yeah, Charlie Sheen will be grinning. These ladies know that I'm sinning, and this is just the beginning. I'm closing in and not getting. There ain't no point in resisting. Living life like a dream, live it right, that's the thing. Every night got a team, I've been tied to the scene. Out on stage, here on screen. Okay, it's a dream, and I pray as a team. One day it'll be me. If I want it, then I get it. Hey, Dad, don't regret it. Push myself to the limit. If I play it, then I win it. I'm just saying, I'm just living for today.
Welcome back to Small Camp Geek Squad. I am Camp Director. I'm going to say this before we get into today's video. Please go check out my last few videos, because since the Percy Jackson Jess video, I haven't even got one video above 10 views. The closest is 9, which is anime characters that would make a good boy band, part 1. Favorite manga, plus best anime demon lords. The announcement Russell T Davies is back as showrunner of Doctor Who, which we'll talk more about today. And jutsus, modes, techniques that the Konoha 12 should have learned, part 1. Now I'll get into part 2s of those some other day, but today we are talking about Russell T Davies. But a lot of those don't have enough views, and I think they deserve a bit more, so please go check that out. Also, we're now on 226 subscribers. But for those of you who have watched this channel since roughly the beginning, you'll know I started off with Percy Jackson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My first 5 videos were all Percy Jackson related. But not all my videos were about Percy Jackson. My 6th video, the first video I did any different, was a Doctor Who video. Now, yes, it was a song that's got 87 views and 4 likes. You know, I'm not the best singer, I'll hold my hands up and admit that. But I've done a few Doctor Who videos here and there, because I love Doctor Who. And just a daily reminder that he absolutely solos most of DC, if not all of DC, and Marvel, just letting you all know that. But today we're going to talk about things I would like to see in the new Russell T Davies era, or as some people have said, RTD 2. Yeah, Russell T Davies 2. Yeah, get it? No? Now, I will be filming next week's video literally straight after this, and that will be about Naruto, so please go check that out next week. This is coming out on a Thursday, I believe, a day later than I normally do it, and that's for a few different reasons. I wasn't able to get this out on time, so I am getting this out the day after. I'm literally filming it on the day it's meant to be out, on the Wednesday. So, sorry, it's a day late. Next week is a Naruto one, but don't worry, I am working on the verses, so that should be coming the week after that. But anyway, Russell T Davies' first era is what me and a lot of others call the golden age of modern Doctor Who, because it was the best era. Now, I'm not saying they were the best doctors or had the best stories, but it was consistently great. They had a few bad episodes, and come on, we all know too, that springs to mind when you think of bad episodes and Russell T Davies era. You think of what was it, Love and Monsters, the Absorbaloff, and the one where it's like this space thing possesses a girl who can draw people and they disappear. I can't remember the name of that, but we all remember that one. Having said that, I still think the Olympic Committee missed an absolute treat with having David Tennant actually pick up the thing in 2012. Anyway, and we all know it was the golden age. Now, Stephen Moffat had some of the best episodes, in both Russell T Davies era, but his era was a good era, but it was too inconsistent, too up and down, and it wasn't as popular as Russell T Davies. Russell T Davies brought it back after 16 years, something like that, off air. I made it very popular. At one time, David Tennant's Doctor was the coolest guy on television. Like, that's what people were saying. So what do I want from Russell T Davies' second era? Now, I'm not saying these are what he's going to do. In fact, I don't think he's going to do all of them. But they're like little things, maybe some big things. We'll get into that right now. Now, I'm going to start off with saying something is mid-season regeneration. Now, I'm not expecting it in the first season. I'm definitely not expecting it. But I'm expecting him to be at least 2 Doctor, era, like he was originally, like Stephen Moffat was. The only one who hasn't had 2 Doctors to work with is Chibnall, because he's done such a bad job with Jodie and his era. Even though I think his second season was a lot better, so I hope his third season is a good season. And remember, that's all coming out before Russell T Davies takes over. But I think a mid-season regeneration, whether it's 3.5 seasons, the person has a Doctor, or 2.5 or whatever. But I think having the Doctor die in the middle of a season with a current companion there, and people will expect it to fake out, like happened with David Tennant when his Doctor died in one of the finales, the 2-part finales, but then turns out, oh no, he wasn't. Something like that. But instead, in the middle, people expect it to be a fake, but then boom, next episode, beginning of next episode, the Doctor's regeneration, new Doctor. Or it can happen at the end where we know it's a new Doctor. I think that will keep everyone on their toes and unexpected, and then you'll have this threat that managed to kill the Doctor that had, who was their prime of their Doctor, like each Doctor gets, and you'll have to have the new Doctor who's just regenerated, so is getting, has the regeneration, like illness, sickness, like little bit of getting used to their body, etc., trying to deal with this threat. And it'll be a good way to establish themselves, because they'll succeed where the other Doctor failed, even though technically the other Doctor didn't fail. And you could do this in numerous ways. You can have it being just a big threat, the Doctor regenerating, or it could be the Doctor sacrifices themselves to save somebody else, and that causes them to regenerate. And then, because not only it will cause such a huge, big uphill battle for the remainder of that, because this new Doctor is just regen, so isn't all fully there yet. And then companions will be confused and have to get used to the new personality. And that could be the half of the season, the second half of the season could be the companions comparing the Doctor now to how the Doctor was previously, etc. But I think the shock of it, the twist, would be so good for Doctor Who. Now, on a little bit of a similar note, in terms of death, I think an unexpected companion death. Now, most companions, they either leave, some die, but I think having a companion die is very impactful, as we all know, and it's a bit gut-wrenching, but I think killing off a companion unexpectedly would be even more of a gut-wrench, because a lot of the deaths are kind of set up, the deaths are set up, everything, it's hinted at before, but I think no hinting and just the companion being killed, and I think it could be impactful if it was just one companion, like with Rose, like how Rose and the Doctor, it was just one, sometimes Mickey was there, sometimes other people, but I think if it was like a partnership, like Amy and Rory, maybe not a couple, but like 2 people or more, or group, like the current is, and one of them dies off, seeing how each of them would react and who they blame, seeing it could lead to some of the companions turning against the Doctor and turning against each other because they blame the Doctor, and some are defending the Doctor, some aren't, and I think that'd be interesting, and it hasn't really been done in New Who. Now, there was a special, I think it was a Christmas special, but correct me if I'm wrong, which I think it was called The New Doctor or The Next Doctor, and it was a one where it was with Cybermen, David Tennant's Doctor, and someone who info stamp of the Cybermen backfired, making him think. That was a really interesting episode, and I like that concept. But what if, in a season, we meet the actual future Doctor, whether it's the next Doctor or the Doctor after next, where they've actually already kind of cast it behind the scenes. We don't know about it. It appears it's a Doctor Who character, and it's a mystery. Is that person another person who's had an info stamp or a similar situation? Is it actually a future Doctor? Is it another Time Lord pretending to be the Doctor? And then to see everyone's faces when that Doctor gets cast, I would expect this to be done end of the Doctor's run. So if I'm thinking middle of the last season, something like that, of that current Doctor. So before it's fully announced, when it's announced that maybe even before the Doctor's announced to leaving, and then it spread rumours, and then boom, they confirm it. I think that'd be a good little twist. And another one is the Master helping the Doctor do something the Doctor can't do. Something smart. So, say the Doctor can't stop something in time, can't get into, do some sciencey stuff in time. The Master helps him out, calls him an idiot, or her, whichever gender the Doctor is. I think we should get women Doctor in the future. I'm not one of the people who seem to dislike Jodie because Jodie's a girl. That makes no sense to me. But it makes sense to, I think, to have the Master help out and be like frenemies, still enemies, but what I'm thinking of, something that will hurt someone close to the Doctor and the Master help out. And the way I envision this Master is he still does all his normal bad stuff, or maybe but it's he's more caring, he or she's more caring towards the Doctor, if that makes sense. Speaking of the Doctor being intelligent, because I was saying the Doctor knew something, I want to see, I love the sonic screwdriver, but I think it's been relied upon too much. So I want to see the Doctor actually being smart in different ways. The sonic screwdriver doesn't work, or he just doesn't use it, and he uses his immense brain of his to hack into a system, do complicated stuff, some sciencey stuff that I don't know about. I'm not a genius. I'm not going to claim I'm a science expert, but constantly do stuff like show he's a good Doctor, show he knows how the body works, show how he knows all these machines work. Show him actually just solve things quickly with intelligence, as everyone around him is stumped or they know what to do, but it would take too long. And then he is the Doctor who does something smart and flashy, and within something that would take hours, he's done in less than a minute type thing. And him actually being smart in ways like that. Also, I think episodes should be how they were in the Russell T Davies era, Moffat era, where episodes are 45 minutes long, or 12, 13, 14 episodes, and you have some two-parters. But I think we should have sometimes have slightly more episodes, somewhere between I think 13 and 20. I know 20 is a lot, but I'm thinking of how stories used to be, and not every story is like this, but occasional stories, instead of having 2 or 3 episodes for big ones, you could have 3 or 5 episode arcs for the really big stuff. Like how it used to be in old Who, classic Who. I haven't watched a lot of classic Who. I'm still watching the first Doctor. I'm trying to get through all that. I mean, I've seen bits and bobs of the others, don't get me wrong. But I know that's how they were set up, and I want it to be done similar to that, but also fusing that in the modern era when they do stuff like that. So have the threat be really big, and you can go in depth more instead of rushing it, set up things, set up characters, show the scale of the bad guys. And I'm thinking you use threats like Vashta Narada, Daleks, something like the Beast level, something that is truly terrifying. And speaking of that, I think we should bring back the terror of some of these monsters, because some of the monsters have not been terrifying as they used to be. I mean, think about it. The last time you were generally scared of a monster, maybe the Silence, definitely the Weeping Angel, 100% the Vashta Narada, and Midnight. and most of those were originally utilized in the Russell T Davies era, but they've gone less scary. Now, a pretty common complaint about Doctor Who is how he's an alien with a time machine that can go anywhere in time and space, and he always goes to modern day London to get companions and just spend a lot of time. And I still want to see that, still keep that as part of Doctor Who. He's British, but I'd like to see him go other places than just modern day London. I'm pretty sure there was a companion in Classic Who I've heard about who was Scottish from like medieval times or something around those times. I want to see the companion get different people from different places, not just London, and different time periods, and heck, maybe even have an alien companion. And when I say alien companion, I don't just mean a human-looking alien either. Like, not an alien who happens to look the same as human. I'm talking about an Ood, or maybe not exactly an Ood, but an alien that looks different, humanoid enough that we could relate to, and maybe have a human companion alongside that, because I think that would be a very interesting. Imagine the Doctor has someone from the past, someone from the present, and an alien, and seeing how they all interact and how they all form bonds. They go from strangers who could barely understand each other because they're all from completely different times, completely different eras, completely different parts of the universe, but they're united under the things that they go through. I think that would be very interesting. I'd also like to see, speaking of humans, I'd like to see the Doctor kind of get fed up with humans. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Doctor fed up with humans, he loves them, and I still want him to love them. But I want to see his patience slightly wear thin, because he's seen some very bad humans over the years, And I want to see him, I don't think he should just come out of nowhere, but I want to see him meet some more, really bad humans who do really bad things, the people who own Ood slaves. And I want to reference them and just slowly overall become a bit more annoyed with humanity, and how he keeps, and have him snap every now and then, saying he gives them lots of chances, and because I think that would put a bit of a barrier with him and his companions, especially the human companions, and that's something he could work on, and over the time he then also sees the really good of humanity again and gets his faith back. Speaking of that, I'd also like to see a darker Doctor, like a Doctor that's a bit more cunning, a bit more manipulative, a bit more aggressive, and a bit less forgiving. And I'm not saying of the companions, I'm just saying of the people in general. I think that would be, I don't know, that just seems something that'd be interesting to see. I've got a list here that I written down the other day, over the last few times. Bringing back the Time Lords, but having them as frenemies, because he saved them. We had the Time War. Amazing bit of writing. And I wish we went more in depth before the Doctor kind of got over that. I would like to have seen that stretch out a bit, but obviously when Moffat took over, it was kind of not added on further, and kind of got to the point where he still cared, but it wasn't like the biggest thing anymore. And then we know they're out there in the universe now, or that they're on the other side of a crack. But I would like to see them get back. But I'm not sure if they get back straight to their goodness. But what I'm thinking is them be back, but recovering from the Time War and everything they've gone through. And I would like to see them have, instead of just one leader, several leaders trying to rebuild what they had before, but also learning from their mistakes. And while some of them are annoyed at the Doctor, like some of them butt heads with the Doctors, that's where the frenemies come in. But the friendly part is a lot of them see him as a hero or a godly being. So, and it could be like a split faction, some people who like him, some people who don't. But they help him when they need to be, but they can also butt heads with him and have them back, and then over time get them back to what they once were. But instead of the Doctor having to listen to them, he's now kind of like a surpassed them type thing. Not surpassed them, but yeah, I don't know if I'm getting my point across a bit there. And also something that we haven't had since Russell T Davis's last era, since we're talking about RTD2, is consistency. Now, I had some. I loved Moffat's era. Well, I didn't love it, but I love the Doctor Who's. I love the Doctors, and I like the stories a lot. But it's not as being. It hasn't been as consistent, and you can't deny it hasn't been as consistent. I think the best episodes of Moffat's era tend to be some of the best in all of Who. But then his worst are also there, and some of them just have good ideas but don't hit. But with Russell T Davies, they're consistently at a good level, if not great level. Where Moffat's era was consistently okay to good, with some amazing episodes. Russell T Davies also had amazing episodes, don't get me wrong. But getting the consistency back. Also, a second ago we were speaking about the Time War. I don't know why I didn't link this in then. Having a Time War spin-off. Hear me out. We've had lots of spin-offs. We've had Torchwood. We've had Sarah Jane Adventures. I'm pretty sure there are more that are not popping into my head. But having a Time War spin-off. Now, I know they do a lot in Big Finish, in Big Finish, which I still don't know how to get Big Finish because I really want to. I want to consume all the Doctor Who content I can. But I think having a spin-off, and it doesn't have to be a Doctor spin-off. I think it works better without the Doctor being the main focus, but have it just focusing on the Time War on both sides, the Daleks, the Time Lords, and just showing it in its entirety. And obviously the Doctor will appear up a lot, all the different versions, and you know what that could mean? Having the 8th Doctor have his own series, because it won't be like his series. He'll still be doing lots of Big Finishes, but having the 8th Doctor, because we all know the 8th Doctor was kind of involved in the war. If you know about the Big Finishes, and have him go from, and then obviously find someone to be the War Doctor, since R.I.P. War Doctor. I just think that would be interesting. Now, do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. But I think it would be interesting. Now, I am reaching towards the end of my list. I have 6, 7 things left. And some of them are about returning things. And one of the returning things I want, that was under Russell T Davies, is confidentials. You know, the behind the scenes, the monster files, the confidentials. Those, I just think it made Doctor Who a bit more, I don't know, special, I guess. And I loved them. And I was a little disappointed when they got removed. Didn't carry on. So having them come back, I think it would help get the hype up and everything back, and feeling, I don't know how to describe it, all together in one. Speaking of returning things, I would like returning characters. Captain Jack, he's immortal. I want him to return, and I want him done properly, because I know everyone loved to have him back in the special, I think it was the New Year's special last year, like the end of the last season, during the last season. But I don't think he was done right. He just came off a bit, I don't know, less confident, more nervous, I don't know. He just wasn't the same Jack that you know in Torchwood or Doctor Who. So I'd like him to return, and him to be like how he was, but kind of obviously not like a developed version. Because the other one just felt like a kind of bit of a bad copy, but I want Jack to be back. There are other characters that are alive. I would like Donna. Now, not as a companion, not back like that, but I mean Wilfred Mott back. I want the Doctor to visit or bump into Wilfred Mott and talk about yet again how does he keep bumping into him, and also to have see Donna from the background and things like that. So it's like a reference. But we know there are other characters like Martha who are still around. But it is not just New Who characters. I mean, there are lots of New Who characters we could bring back. I want them all to be. I don't want a lot of them to be brought back. But there's also the likes of K9, having older from Old Who. Speaking before we get on to that, his daughter, his granddaughter, lots of the older people come back. I think. What I would like to see, now that I'm saying this out loud, is a way for River Song to come back and to meet his daughter, his granddaughter, and if Gallifrey's back, his old family might still be alive, remnants of it. I think that'd be an intriguing story arc. But also, I would kind of like to see the people from Sarah Jane Adventures, the kids, become his companions, like they've kind of upgraded, have it in the story, have it in the Doctor Who verse that Sarah Jane died or passed away, but they kind of disbanded, but they can't stay away from the life, and then they bump into the Doctor, something like that. Also, carrying on with returning villains. Daleks have done a lot. Simon had a lot. I love them. They need to keep being done, but I don't think they should be done until they have a good story. Sontarans, though. Oods. Weeping Angels. Old Who people. I'm trying to think of a name. The other villain Time Lords, not just the Master. The Seamen. No, that sounds weird. There's like the Silurians, but then there's the Sea Devils, was it? Them return. Because I want to see them done now, It's like I think you need to kind of combine New Who and Old Who to bring it forward more, because New Who seems to kind of been running dry. So combining them, that's the thing. Speaking of villains, new villains. When's the last time we had a genuinely good new villain? Silence, maybe? Before that, it was the Weeping Angels, the Vashta Narada. But I don't think we've had any great new villains since the Silence. Am I wrong? Am I wrong there? Also, speaking of villains, I think villains need to be more scary and feel like actual threats again. Because, I don't know, since partway through Moffat's era, a lot of them didn't seem threatening anymore. A big example, Daleks. Daleks no longer seem threatening. In Dalek, when they were first brought back, that one Dalek felt threatening. But since then, they don't seem as threatening. Like, we know they kill lots of people each time they turn up, but there's a lot of that happens off screen, and the tension's not there. I want the tension to be back. I want the scariness to be back, if that makes sense. Obviously not too scary, don't want to scare the kids, but I think one or two monsters should make the kids want to turn off the TV. In a kind of like, but then also have the Doctor make it that they know the Doctor's going to win the day and they want to watch it. And I've got my last 2 points. I want some species on planets, different planets in the universe, to see the Doctor as a god and others to see him as a devil, some to not know of him. And the reasoning is after visiting Pompeii, he was seen as a household god by that family, and we know some people saw him as a demon in Demon's Run. Some people didn't. So I think having him go all over the universe and have stories, I'd like it to kind of be spoke about like he's some godly being or some evil person, how the Daleks and the enemies think he's all evil, etc. And the very last point, and one of the most important, is the music. Now, since Gold left, it hasn't been as good. Under the Chibnall era, it's just kind of been damp and dry. I don't know why those words I've used to describe music, but it's been bland, damp, and dry to me. And it's just been generic. But the music under the Davies era and in the Moffat era, it just gave you a sense of whatever it was meant to do. Hearing the Doctor's theme gave you hope, a joy. an oh yeah moment, but it just adds to the atmosphere, and I don't think we've had that. Anyway, let me know what you want to see back in the Russell T Davies second era, and do you think it's going to be a risk? I've heard people saying it's risky, and I agree it could be risky, because we're all going to hold him to the standards that he once had. But remember, he's not going to be David Tennant, David Tennant back. It's going to be new doctors, new era, new things. But I think, and he has the approach of try things. So let's hope they work out. I really love him as a showrunner, and I hope he brings back Doctor Who to how we know. But whoever replaces him needs to do amazing. Because remember, if he gets replaced and someone doesn't have a really good, doesn't kick it off and ends up like Chibnall, Doctor Who might just end because, seen as only only Russell T Davies. Because Moffat started really well, but he was always being compared to Russell T Davies, and he didn't quite live up to a lot of people. Anyway, I've been your camp director. I'll see you guys next week, or next Wednesday, 4 o'clock. I will make it on time. And then, the week after that, hopefully, fingers crossed, we get a Versus.